Well, hello, and have you heard enough insane stories for today? The hits just keep on coming. So, welcome back to Tarot for Our Times. This is Sarah, your medium on the go, and it's going to be a little bit of a historical video brought to you by the King of Cups reversed. Now, this aspect of the King reversed is the cognizant kind of decline and other mental, of course, for entertainment purposes only, of not only Trump, but the parallel first the king that was king before, who ruled us before we became independent, King George the Third. So I I know that a lot of doomsdayers may say that, well, that's kind of like a big sandwich. We had King George the Third, who was here for the birth of our nation, and maybe this our present day mad king is going to be the end of it. But I'm going to try to see that there may be more to it than that. That it may be more about if we're seeing it's like the whole World War II thing. If we're seeing history repeat itself, because in the end we rebelled from the king. So just to give you a little bit of background, King George the Third was determined to be bipolar by various historians, and he was going through dementia. Um, there's also the issue that back then and into the 19th century too is that arsenic was used in cosmetic and skincare products, and all of those guys back then, they had their makeup and their powder and their this and that, and so you have the substance of arsenic in the mix, and it was widely used by both men and women alike. Now, in doing my research, his episodes really didn't begin till 1788, but I did a little bit of mediumship and trying to kind of blend in with that energy. And maybe this is kind of scientific too, is that he may have been really out there in 1788, but it just doesn't, voila, you're bipolar. It takes years to develop. And I was really getting a very strong feeling that when in the 1770s, when with all of the things building up to the revolution, the Declaration of Independence, that he was already starting to show, he was already starting to act out, but it wasn't like really crazy like he did the 10 years after that. But these things kind of build up, and it pretty much follows it. Oh, and he had dementia, and they were saying it looked like it was probably early dementia. He was born in 1738, so that meant that he was 40 years old. Of course, lifespans were a lot shorter, but he was in his late 30s, early 40s when the overt symptoms came out, and that he was starting to go through dementia. And I get people can start to go through dementia at that age today. So this is really weird. I always like to look at the birthdays to see what their sign is. Guess what sign George the Third is? The same as Donald. Geminis. They're both Geminis, and probably every sign has its shadow, and I'm sure that they do represent the worst of that sign. And it's they were both big empire buildings, and as I shouldn't get into, although I love it, I'll try not to get too carried away with the history, but we had the when he ascended the throne, we had the World War going on with the Brits and the French, and it made it to our shores. And in fact, where I live was a very strong place in Pittsburgh, where we had the French and Indian War, which just a mere extension of the war. They went on all corners of the earth. So he came in kind of at the tail end of that, and it was very expensive. They were fighting in Pittsburgh, they were fighting in India, they were fighting on every place in between, all over the world. So then you got the taxes and all this stuff. So then we've got Trump and the taxes. So just as King George didn't get any better, we can see even from last summer, and I of course say this for entertainment purposes only. So last summer we were with the Shocks and Hannibal Lecter. Now, just in case you think things couldn't have gotten crazier, I cannot even go through the list of all of the stuff that he's talking about, mixing up Harvard and Harlem, for one, sleeping at the Pope's funeral, all kinds of and meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada today and telling him that because the Prime Minister said there's no way we're going to become the 51st state, and that's never going. And Trump said, "We'll never say never." I mean, it's just crazy stuff like that. So, as with both of them, the dementia really increased, which kind of adds to I from what I have read, and and his niece Mary is very she's a psychologist, and she knows her stuff, and she's saying that his big psychological disorder is narcissism. I suspect George III had that along with his bipolar disorder. I haven't heard anything with Trump and bipolar disorder, because he's always on that manic high. He's never, except when he goes to sleep and trials and funerals, he's kind of like really manic all the time. I mean, if he were bipolar, you wouldn't hear from him for 3 weeks, because he would be in bed sleeping. So not too sure about that, unless they're giving him stimulants to not do that. So, but they both have very, very serious psychological disorders. So I want to see if I want to look at the parallels, and I also want to look at the differeces. And I think I'm going to do sort of like one of those two-sided readings. In a psychic sense, I really don't see this as the end of the U.S. as we know it. Even though you have the King George at the beginning and King T at the end, I'm getting a sense that we know about history. I'm probably not the first nor the last one to make a video on the twin king Gemini Looney Tune-ness, and that's why I made the title Reintarnation. I mean, wow, could that be possible? Probably not, but it kind of looks that way. So I will be doing the before tarot to represent King George, and then the after tarot for Trump, because that'll be kind of like where's this going, and then I'll have a middle card, which I think I'm going to use the old Waite Rider deck, and just see where this goes. So, and I'm going to see the parallels and the differences, and hopefully there will be a conclusion. If they're not, I'll do a quickie. I'll just do a quickie read. Okay, so lowering this thing. So this is a little bit different than what I've done in the past. So, okay. So I don't want to knock my microphone off the table. Okay, so as the general energy to see what it would be like with good old King George, as I will put a before tarot. Okay, so we have the Two of Swords in reverse. So in this, she's getting ready to gather her thoughts to make a decision, but she's putting the blindfold on, which is making things harder. So I would say in reverse, I would say this may even be stronger. She doesn't want to see, and she doesn't want to pick up those swords to even think. So this really does go back to the king. So in the present energy, taking this into consideration, oh, we always get the money. Okay, so we have the money, which is to enrich our, to keep stacking it up in our own favor, which I think was very much where these two guys are very much alike. Then we have in the Today world, in the after tarot of Trump, we have the Emperor. Let's see what he's doing here. Okay. Oh, he doesn't look too happy here. He's starting to question his control. And this is kind of an Aries sort of thing with the ram in there, but look at his face. He seems to have some doubts. And I would say that one leg is he's kind of ready for a fight. The other one, the gown covers it up, which means he's not ready for the fight. So it kind of goes along with these two swords. It's kind of like he has a choice to make, just like the king did, but he doesn't quite want to face it. He doesn't quite know what to do. Okay, so the energy of that is, oh boy. Okay, Five of Swords. Five of Swords, the bully. The bully taking all the goodies, but then look, the faithful subjects, they're leaving. They are leaving, and this is kind of chilly because this is sort of what happened to both of them. So in the before aspect leading, this is going to be okay, we have, cannot make this stuff up. We have the King of Cups in reverse. So as I'm still getting, okay. So with this kind of celestial hand, he's going to hand it to him, and he could take it. He doesn't look like he really wants to take it. And this is a knowledge of he's bonkers. He's bonkers. And also about that there may be some, I don't know what George III's substances were, but I'm sure that they were giving him something for like the melancholia. I suspect that may, because our guides are saying that was the early signs, was the melancholia before the manic set in. So they may have been giving him God only knows what. Okay, so energetically, the after tarot coming up today is, okay, we have the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, which it's all about, even though he's and he has really filled the coffers, even though he's kind of like, we go back to the muskrat, it's never enough. It's just never enough. He will stiff the waiter in the restaurant. It's just one of those. He's never ever going to be happy. So they're both in reverse. So there is kind of like, it's lonely to be king. Both of them are saying with this, yay, I got the goodies, but it's lonely to be king. Okay, so which is probably adding to the whole mental illness thing. So I'm seeing a lot of parallels, so let's see what we have. So in opposition, okay, I got these three decks. Okay, so opposing all of this in opposition is up here. We'll put this up here. Two of Cups in reverse. Not being able to trust. Not being able. This is kind of like the result. It's lower. It's lonely. Yeah, yep, it's lonely. You can gather the money, but it is lonely at the top. And not trusting anybody, feeling paranoid about the power being, because once you get to the top, you can be tumbled off. I believe that after that with King George III, I think the sun did start to set on the British Empire. I do believe that's very likely what happened. So let's see. Well, let's see what we have going on in the before. Okay. The High Priestess. I would say there was a lot of the religious stuff going on that I think he was, King George was kind of looking for, because she's a person of many spiritual practices, but I don't know, with this, was that a bird or a bat? Oh, it's a bird. That with this bird, there seems to be a kind of a shadow falling over that. It's kind of a disconcerting thing. She seems very serene, but that bird is about to upset her world. So I would say that he may have been looking for something spiritual to combat whatever his mental illness that was starting to come on, which gives you that's the beginning of the mistrust of your supposed allies, which I'm pretty sure is happening right now. And then the breaking of alliances, all of this stuff. So in the after, oh boy, here we have, okay, for the Trump element in the afterward, this is the monsters coming out at night. This is insomnia and battling. And the thing is that this is, what is this? Is this a lizard? Oh, it's like a not. It's kind of a demonistic salamander, which would be about transformation and all this sort of thing. So he's fighting the beast, which probably exists in his head, and yeah, it's like these guys are not getting any rest. This is turning into be careful what you wish for kind of a thing. Okay, so in the past, we have, okay, for Georgie with the Six of Swords, this is okay. Okay, normally if this were upright, I can't believe all the reverses. It's funny, I was watching Ellie Dreams Down Under with things about, I think it was about Trump's mental health and stuff, and she was getting all of these like mostly reversals. It was kind of weird. So if this is upright, they're beginning the journey. She's made the decision. They're embarking. They're getting ready to shove off, navigate the choppy waters into the smooth ones, but not here. Not here. It's like there's a hesitation to get on that boat. And the thing is, a lot of monarchs, even though it was difficult to travel back in those days, they would travel to see their colonies. But he never did. He never came over to the colonies to see what was going on, because that could have really changed in how he ruled. So, and also about probably in a ton of denial about his increasing, I think he was sickly and all this sort of thing. So he did not have the courage to take the journey. And then we have here, this is unbelievable that this is under, I guess it isn't under the Two of Cups. This is the divorce. This is the divorce of America. And now we have more people going against our present mad king. I say this in the spirit of for entertainment only. And so what do we have? Oh boy, this always comes up. The devil in reverse, which means the real doubling down. Like the getting, if you think he's bad upright, just like really bad, trying to cling on to people. But there's also another meaning behind this, is the ones that some people are starting to peel off, which is only making him worse. And so, of course, he doesn't see his troubled health problems, mental health, all of this. So he's really doubling down and losing people. So I'm starting to get the picture here. It's like I don't see the bookends theory coming out. So let me see with the okay, we're going to do the conscious of George the Third. In the conscious world of George the Third, he refused. He must have been in an incredible denial. If I refuse to look at what's going on with me, they don't exist. So he's turning his back, he's covering his eyes, and then we have, so what the conscious thing about is the message of the Page of Wands, a new message which he chose to ignore in the heat starting to go in the colonies. So in the conscious level is, man, meltdown city. It's just getting worse and worse each day. This is interesting because this is the beginning. Refuse. See, back then, the difference between them is back then, it was just in the seed stage, probably mostly depression. Here we have this now. We have this full blown. So he's not going to listen to the message and see reality. Woo! And this is the heartbreak. The heartbreak that comes from this. So hold on to your hats. Subconscious. We have, in the subconscious, we have Georgie boarding the chariot and hoping to move forward, but he really doesn't know how to do it. But it was always about moving forward, having the sun never set on England, but what is he going to do when he gets there? It's kind of like never concluded because of his demons. And then what this is about is, the give and the take, and one hand washes the other. With him, it would be all about, we got to take the money away from the colonies to pay for this very expensive war that begins with the British and the French that did reach American and I believe to Canadian shores. So this is all the balancing, trying to balance everything out, and who they choose to give to and who they choose not to give to. So, wow, this is really interesting. Now we have today, this is so wild that the chariot would come up for both of these upright, but there's a different dynamic in these days. Okay, so he's aboard, but Trump is not holding the reins, which is really wild because I just saw a meme on Facebook about what he's never going to do. Canada's never going to be the 51st state. We're not going to get the Panama Canal. We're not going to open up Alcatraz, on and on and on and on. So he's making the big. Oh, and this is also about deals. The deals, they're not being negotiated. I'm sure there was nothing accomplished with the Prime Minister of Canada. Carney just came just to, it's like, I was elected. It's a courtesy call. I'm not going to get anything done. And that was pretty much his demeanor. So all of these grand, oh yeah, new health care in 2 weeks, blah, 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 which he said 10 years ago, all this stuff. So here we have, he thinks he's in control, but he doesn't have the reins. So that's this whole subconscious thing. Okay, so in the present, in the very present energy, we have, or the present in the 17 in the 1776. I have to wonder if George had a drinking problem. I did a brief review of his. I don't see it, but you have to wonder. I got the impression that he may have had his handlers that kept, it's easier back then, before, like, way hundreds of years before the internet. It's kind of easier with his handlers to keep things within the palace wall as to any bad habits. And so he's doing something addictive to not face the reality of his emotions. So, and in this present, and justice in reverse. Yep, he was getting his way. Of course, he wasn't anywhere near us, but he was getting his way for a while. And when one wondered if karma was ever going to come to this guy that was taxing the hell out of the colonies, well, yeah, it finally did happen. And don't forget that the British were beating the crap out of us until like the last months, literally the last months of the war. And so justice in reverse is the karma eventually coming, but not as fast as you would like it. So we've got this. So here we have, okay, so the Empress in reverse, and usually she's pregnant, but it looks like she didn't have the baby, because she's looking a lot trimmer than the regular. Okay, so this is Trump depending on Russia, and maybe Russia will do what Russia wants to do. And so this is kind of interesting. So in this present dynamic, it's like he can't, I think I did see a video. He can't make he likes to think that everything's his idea, but he cannot do it by himself. That's what's going on. Trump cannot do it by himself. And Russia may be waiving her options right now. And, because he did say some things, with the Ukrainian minerals deal and all these sorts of things, but Russia has to realize is he's a loose cannon and he'll go off the rails, like, I don't know, for whatever reason. So these both are just, they're not handling it well. And justice is just warming up in the wings. That's what's going on now. So in the not too distant future, we have, so I would say that by the late 1770s that King George, because this guy doesn't have the light in the lantern. He's trying to put the light in the lantern, doesn't realize there's the viper, his enemy. Maybe that represents a 13 colony. So this does present him as being rather clueless, but I think the people in the court were sending the messages out that this wasn't the case. So then we have here, again, with the I'm the big bad bully, and being oblivious to losing support. Losing support. I know he had the, I think he had the Hessians, the Germans, on his, boy, this is some review of history. Okay, so then we have, coming up to Trump. Uh-huh. This is so interesting because this after tarot has the female figure coming up, and it seems like they are in that she's going to help him bring the ships in, but this is talking about his losing partnerships in the world. So while King George may not have been able to show his light to get the rest of the world on board to go against us, then we have that Trump is not, is he's just, we should, he's just, this may be the whole Canada thing today, that he's rejecting our allies. So this is a bit, so I would say in conclusion to what's going on here, this just doesn't look as though this is the parallel to the beginning of the end. And they, because this is what the cards are saying. They are speaking loud and clear. Okay, so with Georgie Porgy again, we have justice. Okay, in reverse. Okay, upright, he would be, justice would be ready to pick up the sword. And then we have the bird of peace. So he just was not, he was not going to surrender. Then I think this is where the mental health issues were. He was not going to surrender. He was not going to see the truth. And then, the whole thing, and he was not going to go make peace. So then we had the whole thing turning south at Yorktown. And so, but I guess he was kind of starting to live in the delusion that somehow it was going to turn out what it isn't. So this justice reverse is quite a different animal than the regular deck. So then we have here, we have the Two of Wands in reverse. Bad planning. Really bad planning. Because, see, he couldn't see what we were about. Now, we were kind of a ragtag bunch, but the thing that we had over him that got us our independence was the fact that we were the first to, really use the, what is now known as guerrilla fighting. Of no real uniforms, but buckskins and stuff that blended into the forestry. When finally, George Washington said, yeah, this is a new way of fighting. And those red coats that made them absolute walking targets and fighting in lines instead of, jumping out of trees or whatever we did that was totally unconventional. So he didn't have a clue to find the right generals to fight this war. And this is talking about him being very, very isolated. So in comparison, for today's world, and the conclusion is, okay, this is the world which really, okay, it has all the elements of the tarot, but what's missing are the zodiac signs, the Leo and the Taurus and all of that, which is saying that he is, this is again, I think he thinks that, and this is kind of going through a portal, but it's not a complete portal. Everything is kind of, everything is not there that's supposed to be. So this could mean, the end of a cycle, but it may be it's more for him than it is for us, because this is a card for Trump. And so I think he's living under the illusion that he's spouted all of this stuff and signed all of that crap, which is, being dismantled by the court system, and they can disobey the courts, but but there are things that are out of his his control that he cannot halt when the courts have their say, and that seems to be what's happening now. So I did have to I had to dress her so we don't have YouTube censor issues. So that's my little added artwork. But yeah, so I think he's living under the delusion that he has finished some kind of cycle and everything is going to go its way, which it isn't. So these are kind of delusion cards and being fairly clueless. So the big lesson and the big conclusion of this is, let's take a look at King George. Oh, the Queen of Pentacles upright. Okay, well, that almost looks like his queen. His queen, if you've seen the portraits. This is being offered an opportunity, and she's not grabbing on to that pentacle. And if you notice, if you're familiar enough, her garden in the regular deck, it's just bursting with things where there's just a few scrawny little things growing. But I mean, she's got flowers, she's got this and that in abundance. And she is like the Capricorn businesswoman of the tarot. But this one, she's being handled some wealth, but she is not taking it. She's not taking the advice. So this is showing kind of like a little bit later on in the whole thing where he could have been smarter about this and maybe figured, well, maybe let the colonies go and maybe they'll come groveling back, or maybe not. But we have a big expensive world war that happened, and so that's kind of cleaned us out. But he didn't do that. So I also see she doesn't look so good either. So okay, so we have this as again like not seeing the rest of the world. There's like no future. And I would say that this may come across as losing the colonies. These could be the colonies, the expansion that Trump wants to make. It's never going to happen. I mean, Greenland, Canada, it's never going to happen. But being clueless about what's going on in the rest of the world, and it's also about bad business decisions. Here we go. Bad business decisions. You have greed and bad business decisions. You're not going to get your money in the most ethical way. So then, Trump, we have Temperance, the after tarot with Temperance, and I'm trying to see this little, okay. Unlike the regular rider deck, there is no blending of the earth energy and the more spiritual, emotional energy. There's a bird there that just looks like could hardly wait to get out of there, which always brings me back to the meme with the eagle attacking him in his office. And so this shows that there's no balance. In fact, are those things wilting? And he's got one, he lives on the emotions. He's got, and that foot on the land, it's not very stable, and the water pouring out of the cup, it's very, very wavy and unemotional. So it's showing that he doesn't quite have, he thinks he has the balance, but he really doesn't. So what this is saying is, the whole reading is basically said, these cards have been amazing. What they're telling us is that the lesson, the only lesson that's going to come out of this is, just like George had the colonies and other parts of the world too. I mean, he's dumping prisoners in Australia. They're dumping their criminals in the States, and all, I mean, all this stuff. You know, chaos, absolute slavery, all kinds of chaos going on. But we rebelled against that, and we rebelled against like a really, really strong and powerful army. So I see that the parallel is because as this progressed, I'm sure he was on, his mental health wasn't too good, and Trump is further along on that road for entertainment purposes only, but that his mental health is in decline, and they were both going through dementia. So I'm going to say that it didn't end well for George. It doesn't look like it's going to end too well for Trump, because what a lot of these cards are saying is that they're out of touch with reality. They're out of touch with the people. They're, you know, his subjects, and with Trump, it's his constituents, and it's kind of eerie about how they parallel with each other. So I would say that this is optimistic, but it means that we're going to have to. It's not going to be pleasant to live through. But this is, we have the internet and airplanes now, and as opposed to having, you know, ships and horses to deliver the messages and ships to travel on. So things, of course, are moving a lot faster. But when you look at that history, our revolution didn't last that. It was only a couple of years that we had ours. So it moved pretty fast for that day. So I would say that no, what's probably looks like, at least what they say, is that he's going to be gone. But just like we had a big mess and had to figure it out almost 250 years ago, we're going to have to figure things out again to make sure this stuff doesn't happen. But fortunately, going back then, they did give us the Constitution, which has been a growing organism. I look at it as an organism. That may be the thing that saves us. But you know, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for him. And the bottom line is, with mental health and denial, you're not gonna rule the world with that, or you're not gonna rule it for very long. So with that, I hope that gives you a little bit of hope, because I was a little bit nervous about this reading. So I'm going to sign off for now. So bye.